All right, perfect. Thank you, Brian. Um, Welcome everyone. Today, if you didn't know this, we're going to be talking about engaging teens. And we do want to open this up to be more of a conversation because many of you here may be educators for a very long time or have experience with teens. So we want to give that opportunity to share those stories. And before we go into introductions of our team, which if you've been coming to all of these, this is probably a repeat, but we will go through and introduce the New York State 4-H staff. But if you can put in the chat what county you're from and how many years you've been an educator, um, that would be great. And then while you guys are doing that, we will go through and do introductions. My name is Brianna. I am the equine specialist at Cornell, though I do work remote and primarily live in Saratoga County, New York. I'm going to pass it on to Jess, who is my better half in the 4-H horse program.
I'm Jess Tyson. Like Bree said, I work with the horse program. I was an educator for almost 7 years and then went full time with the state program running our educational horse contest with our coaches, the art program, things like that. And kind of doing some other things with Bree as the year goes on. And I've been with the state full or in some capacity for the last 7 years as well. And I'll pass it to Debbie.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to see so many on here. I'm Debbie Grusenmeyer. I'm the dairy youth specialist. Many of you who've been here for a while know me as, I've been here for 27 years and doing the statewide 4-H dairy programming and junior dairy leaders. And I had the beginning dairy leaders program, and now we've reimaged that to a different program, but maybe Brian will mention that one also, how we're one of the examples of engaging. I'll pass it to him.
Good morning, everybody. So I am Brian Alkema. I'm the New York State Youth Livestock and Companion Animal Specialist. So I oversee the animals that Jess and Brianna and Debbie do not. So the horse and dairy are not mine, but the rest of the species fall under me. So I've been in this position. It will be 2 years in May. It's hard to believe. But prior to that, I was about 25 years in a county as an educator and then associate director. So very excited to offer this program to you guys. I know our team is really looking for this as an interaction. Several of you got 18, 20 years on, and some of you have 4 months. And that's what we're really excited about is bringing this together and really engaging with our teens across the state. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Brianna.
Thanks, Brian. Yes, and to Brian's point, I was looking through and we have a great diversity in the amount of years people have been here. So really take the time, and if you see somebody who's kind of in a county near you who maybe you're new and you're looking for some advice or a mentor, reach out to those people and don't hesitate to do that moving forward. Or if you've been here for a while and you see that there's a new educator, we do have occasionally get silos within the extension system, and what we find is that most of us are all dealing with the same issues and problems and can really help each other out. And I think since COVID, there's been a little bit more of those silos. So kind of getting back to working with those regions, I think will go a long way. But we are not going to be talking about that today. I'm going to get right into the PowerPoint. And we are engaging teens in programming. So a lot of educators report, and we see some drop off in 4-H participation when we get to those teenage years. And we're going to discuss all of those little aspects of that today, the tools, strategies, and of course, most importantly, the discussion for among all of us. And we are the animal science team at the New York State 4-H program. And while we are the animal science team, we will, how do I move? Okay, there we go. A lot of these philosophies can apply to non-animal related programming, but we will probably be gearing this more to that the animal aspect, and we do have some advantages there because kids like animals. So why focus on teens? This is the most important development period for them where they are learning to be in those leadership roles and they are gaining those skills that they're going to take onto their career. So in youth development and child development, this is the stage where they're really becoming and learning those skills that make or break them moving forward in higher education and the careers. It's a critical life stage, and we want to be there to support them and guide them and make sure that they're prepared to go to college or get into the workforce and give back to their communities too. So, current challenges, a lot of you already probably know some of them, the social pressures, competing commitments. I hear a lot about sports and a drive for independence. In the chat, can everyone just put in a couple challenges they've faced with keeping teens engaged? Sports, church, scheduling. Oh, jobs. Yep. Finding new topics. Giving them something at their level. Ooh, transportation. Does anybody want to talk about a anything more specific that they could share with the group or an experience they had with a challenge that they encountered?
So I work with a group of teens, and one of the things that I found with them is that if one of them states they don't want to do something or a project, all the others are like, yeah, we don't want to do it either, even though I know half of them would have been interested in said project. So I've found it's better sometimes to engage with them individually about things. And then sometimes we just have to go separate ways.
That is a great example. Thank you, Carrie. Anyone else?
We've found, especially in our animal science realm, that some of our older teens feel like they know everything already when it comes to their animals if they've been doing it for years. So trying to find some ways to engage them in activities or lessons that they maybe haven't done already, or kind of try to prove to them, even though you've been raising, a cow for your whole life, you can still learn something new.
Excellent. Yeah. We find that even in our programming, when we're bringing youth for tours and to visit colleges, that even the college professors will talk way below the level of our kids, and we're like, no, they they already know all of this stuff. So yeah, that is good. And also them learning that they might not know everything about the species they've been raising. That can be challenging.
One of the things that was the reason why I started the Junior Dairy Leader Program years ago, it'd be 27 years ago, was exactly, kind of what we're talking about here is we were losing those teens in 4-H and in our project areas. Mine specifically is the dairy side of things. And I looked at what was drawing them away, and it's sports, it's student council, it's some of those things involved with their school, but they still had a passion for the dairy. So trying to pull some of those things those leadership components, those taking them to the next level, those interactions with like-minded teens was kind of the reason for starting that program and giving them that engagement, I guess, on a different level. It's not just about the project, but it's about, yeah, the leadership development, the career awareness, and the networking. I mean, in the dairy industry, that we have dairy discussion groups that farmers talk with their, farmers in their area, and this kind of became that for the kids.
Excellent. Thank you. And
Brianna,
Debbie, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to add a little bit of, I think about this, and one of the things I think about is, right, like even going back to when I was an educator in the county, right? When we working with youth, it's a lot easier to work with the younger youth. They're easier to engage. It's easier to share knowledge with them because they don't have the knowledge, so not as intimidating with that, right? And then you get into the teens, and some of them may know more about some of these species than we actually do, and that's okay, right? And it's engaging with them to say, how do we encompass their knowledge to the betterment of their growth development and also to educate the next level of kids, right? But I think there's this point of being scared to engage with them somewhat also, right? I know working with like those 16, 17, 18-year-old, I have a teenager in my own house, right? And the knowledge level he has, he is smarter with some of the stuff than I am just because he's lived it and he lives, breathes, and eats it. So I think that can be one of the challenges with the teens versus the younger youth. So I think a lot of times as educators, we've kind of gone towards the lower level or the clover buds and the younger youth for programming because it can be easier and it's something they're a lot easier to engage with.
Um, this is James from Suffolk. I come with a different background. My previous background is from recreation leadership in the nursing home business, and I worked a lot with dementia patients, etc. And what I found worked with them, which also works with the kids, is depending on what we're doing, I'm going to use, for example, wood burning. I have the program already scheduled. When people are entering the room, I'm already in the process of wood burning something. So it immediately sparks their interest as to what you're doing. And I find that it works with the younger kids and the older kids. And it's a varied age group from 9 to 16, 17. And I'm finding that when I team them up, it really kind of works good. It becomes a little mentor program. And as far as working with animals, we had, when I started, a showmanship livestock, and we do goats down here in Suffolk. We noticed a falling off of the 4-Hers. They were aging up, or they were just doing other things. So, in order to re-spark that interest, I started a pack goat program. So the kids were starting to, get packs and learn how to put the packs on, lead their animals with a halter. We've actually gone on hikes off-site with goats. And we also built our own obstacle course on the farm so that the kids will walk the goats, which is actually a great spark for any age group. So being involved in the program as they're entering into the room kind of engages them immediately or sparks their interest. So I find that's a great approach for anybody that would like to use it.
That's a great one. And that kind of ties, James, that ties in right into this slide about the brain and the teen brain and engagement. And you gave a perfect example of the first number one here, challenge and novelty, the natural drive for new experiences. This has come about, I have my sources at the end, but I was able to, I really took some time and read different journal articles and listened to TED Talks and things, trying to understand the teenage brain, which I think we've been doing that for centuries unsuccessfully. So not sure how much I've gathered from that, but challenge and novelty. And James, I love that example of like, okay, we had goats, the kids were interested in goats when they were younger, and then they're dropping off. What's something that can challenge or is novel to them? And then you incorporated that pack goat, which gave them another challenge, something new. Peer relations and purpose. That's It's so important to youth, and those are skills they're learning. I think sometimes we think like, oh, they're being too, they're only coming for social events. Social opportunities for teenagers is just as important as the educational opportunities, and being able to combine them and stir that pot a little is an art as far as an educator. That's difficult to do, but we do want to be working towards incorporating not just the educational component, but those social components, and guiding them to do that appropriately, which can be challenging too. In making sure that they're being inclusive, making sure that we support that, yes, you're going to have a best friend, and that friend is your confidant, but there may be other opportunities to make friends, and that kind of skill moving forward. And then autonomy and identity. I think I am challenged the most with this part in my programming. They want independence and they want self-discovery. So that is certainly a skill as an educator, to be able to balance that, making sure you have that support for them, but also allowing that independence without losing control of their safety. And really, that is our job, is to make sure that they remain safe in the environments that they're in, but allowing that self-discovery and what they would like to pursue, and the leadership opportunities that there are. Just some tangible tips: providing choice, leadership roles, and real world application. I know that sentence is like, yeah, easy to say, like, here, Bree's telling you, just like give them some choice and leadership roles and your programming will improve. Well, that may have a little truth to it. It's much more than just saying that, and I understand the challenges. Can anyone talk about experiences they've had where they've been able to provide choice or leadership roles or world application that improved, well, or that maybe it didn't improve, but I would hope that it improved your programming with teens? And I know Debbie's was kind of a pioneer in the youth teen leadership endeavor, and has had a really successful program. So Debbie, please feel free to help us as we go through this journey about engaging teens, because you've kind of started that many years ago.
Thanks, Brianna. Like with the Junior Dairy Leader Program, they do get some, it's their program, and they're in it for a year, and they have a choice. They tell us, I want to go to places that have some niche markets that, they've done a creamery, or they've done some sort of business off of like their farm, and to add to it. So they have choices on things like that, and that realm of things. And then there's also choices that we give them in not only in the places they go, but in the programming that we do. Like at we go to the National 4-H Dairy Conference, and there's lots of leadership opportunities, and they don't have to be the forefront leader in the group to be on a leadership committee. They're all part of some sort of leadership committee. And over the years, we've had several from our state that have been on the planning committee. We take 2 to 4 every year on that planning committee, and we've had different ones from not just our state, but on there. And they're not all the ones that stand up in front of the room and take charge. There's different leadership role characteristics that we look to. I was reading through some of the material that Brianna has went through to develop the presentation, and they were talking about the 6 stages of leadership identity development. And I think about the different things we do we go and we call it the team challenge, the rope courses. And we are going through every single one of those stages in that little environment of those few hours that we do those activities. Because there's some that are very vocal and there's some that are not. And those kids have the opportunity to, sorry, sorry, my notes, I am at home. But they work as a team and problem solve. And so those are just a few examples of what we've done with the junior dairy leaders.
Thanks, Debbie. And this, you're gonna see like some repetition in the slides and kind of just things worded a little bit differently. But what do teams want from 4-H? They want community and connection. We go back to that social leadership and purpose. We go back to that identity. And then fun and challenge, the novelty. They want experiences that are exciting and meaningful. And to go kind of add to that and sort of combine some things, they're looking for exciting experiences that they can share with their peers. So when we add in that novelty, and then there's a group of youth that they are a team or working together, and then they share a novel experience, that is very important for their brain development, and that also keeps them more engaged, because if they have that novel experience with a group of people, it's just something new that they share. So they're more likely to come back to not only socialize with those other youth, but to experience more. And something, I actually am developing a new teen program, and I originally had sort of modeled it off of Debbie's program, but had changed the timeline a little bit, and it was okay. But I was like, what am I missing here that these youth are not engaging and really creating a bond with the other teens that kept them engaged just as much as the novel experiences did. And it was that Debbie's program starts with a trip. It starts with that novel experience that they share with those youth. And then they have other educational opportunities, and some of them afterwards may be a little boring sometimes that I've been planning. But since you had that novel experience in the beginning that they were able to share, they're more interested and more pliable in moving forward with things that may be a little boring, they may not be as interested in, but because of that initial novel experience, you're kind of engaging that brain, and we've hooked them. So discussion prompt. We won't do the breakout rooms for this one, but right, that's later. Just I want to ask you guys to recall a time that a teen or a group of teens was highly engaged, and what made the difference. You're welcome to put it in the chat, but I also encourage you just to unmute and share for a few minutes. All right, somebody throw me a bone, please.
I can, Brianna.
Thank you.
So recently in my county, I'm from Oswego County. My name's Nathaniel. This past year, we started a livestock showmanship clinic for all of our animal species in the county, because our county does almost every animal species, and we wanted to give our teens and youth the chance to learn more about each of the show worlds. And he gave the opportunity for our teens who maybe just show goats to watch the cattle portion to learn about cow showing. And our teens really enjoyed it. They really loved learning about the different species, the rules for their shows, the similarities between their species and differences. They also liked getting to learn, like with our goat portion, they got to actually practice some of the maneuvers with one of our goat leaders who came and did the program. So we had they really enjoyed it, and everyone was engaged learning and said that they had a wonderful time and they looked forward to us continuing it in the future. So I'm also in the process of planning that for this year. So yeah.
Thanks, Nathaniel. Has anyone ever had an experience with a team? Oh, I have someone. The more excited, I find the more excited that I am about any program, it becomes more exciting. Recently started working with a goat club as well as a pony club and tying them together with driving. Thank you, James. Has
Hey,
anyone,
it's
go
Andrew
ahead.
from Ulster. I feel like the biggest kind of teen buy-in I saw was like at Career X, honestly, where they were just super engaged in it, like where they were in things that they really were interested in. Also, like very novel experience with new people, new faces, new kids. Like it was yeah, definitely tying into that like first initial trip to get kids in and get them like into it. It was kids that I didn't really know that well, but seemed to kind of really buy in um, when they were there, at least.
Yeah, Career X is a great program, especially for introducing kids to novel, but also things they're interested in. So it's a great example.
Brian, I can kind of share an example that I used to do. Sorry, as we're talking. So years ago, when I was straight 4-H in the county, we used to do a teen leadership program. And I'm trying to remember the name of it, but we used to actually go to Camp Awada in Cortland County's 4-H camp, and we would spend Friday, Saturday, Sunday there, right? And the kids were broken into teams. They did the cooking, the cleaning, the washing, right? All that type of stuff. And then we were over there. We were there overnight. We did team building exercises. We did the personality tests, and we also gave them that opportunity to be free, right? Like just to have fun and be kids and to experience each other. Because a lot of the times, I think we try to structure stuff so much, and this is even me thinking about it. We structure stuff so much that sometimes we need to let them just have that unstructured time to be youth and to develop those relationships within themselves. So I think, those are so important type of things. And I think a lot of times, I know this is a tough thing, but the overnight things are huge for teens. Absolutely huge. If you have not done an overnight program with teens, it is like night and day to see the reaction with those kids, right? And I know it's a lot on educators, but right, that's one thing I've definitely seen over the years is the more the kids are together on there and you're providing them that opportunity to be teens and to provide that leadership role, I think is important.
I have something in the chat. Is that what you're going to say, Jess? Thank you.
Yep.
As members got older, and well, everyone can read. But really, I love this, Brandy, because it's talking about how you listened to the youth and grew with the program. So you kept it engaging because they had some sort of buy-in as being the people developing the content. So that's fantastic. Thank you.
I just want to add one more quick thing back to kind of tying into what Brian said. Oswego County, we just held our winter horse program, winter roundup, that Brianna actually came down and was kind enough to join us for. And that is a teen program that we do in the county, and we've offered it to other counties as well as an opportunity for an overnight weekend for youth to get to know each other. And similar to what Brian said, I've run it for 2 years now. I've had repeaters come back. I've had kids that absolutely love the program and they just find it so much fun. So, like Brian said, it's a lot of work on the educator, but I think it's well worth it. And yeah, it's a great program. And if you have the capacity to do it, I recommend giving it a try.
Thank you, Nathaniel. So beyond fun, the three key factors for retaining teens, again, little repetition, but when you hear it and you're really applying it to how you're developing, I think it will make a difference. So that social connection, peer-led events, teen councils, mentorship, purpose-driven activities, service projects, competitions, and real-world applications. And Brian will be talking about a little experiment that he did with our leadership group, or our animal science leadership group. And what surprised me or impressed me is that teens are interested in service projects. And I think sometimes we think too much about serving them and seeing and making sure like we're engaging them and we are offering them educational opportunities, that really where you see this turn in that independence with youth is when you're allowing them to give back and they can assume an identity through that. And it's if once we master it, I actually think it'll be easier because the youth are capable of planning things with guidance. They are capable of making decisions with guidance. That if you allow them to take those reins, you're going to see them more engaged and more interested in participating and keep staying with the program moving on. And then, of course, those real world applications. I think 4-H is already very good at this. We've talked about it a few times already. Brandy, you were talking about bringing students to farms and things like that. So 4-H already has a little bit of the upper hand with introducing youth to those real world opportunities, but sending it home a little bit with that and making sure that we don't lose that component to our programming is very important. And then ownership and voice. Let the teens design their experience. And I think what we've been hearing a little bit through the conversations we've had amongst us is that when they're guiding that experience, they identify more with that program and with that experience. And so a tangible tip, use teen advisory boards for program planning. Teen advisory boards can be a struggle, but I do think sometimes if you start with a group with that novel experience, you can kind of keep them engaged moving forward. The initial engagement with teen advisory groups I've struggled with that in the past. Has anybody had success with developing a teen advisory group?
Um, it's maybe not the same, but we have a teen ambassadors club, and they actually meet and plan our countywide like Cloverbud programs. So they come up with like the lessons or like what workshops we're gonna offer, and then I kind of help them to narrow it down or to come up with like an actual um, lesson. And then I buy all the materials, and then they kind of do all of um, the organizing and planning of the lesson, and then work with the kids. Um, I mean, I don't know if that's the same as an advisory committee, but like it's
Yeah.
something.
I would say yes. I think we may call it different things, which is fine. But yeah, I think that is appropriate. And did you find that the teens that are engaged in that remain engaged because of the identity with the Cloverbud?
Yeah, they love it, actually. They like coming up with the ideas and seeing them like actually come to fruition. So, they're pretty invested. I mean, there's only 3 of them, but they're very dedicated, so.
Brianna, I'll just talk a little bit about like what we're doing with AL. So our AAL program, right? So that's a program that the 4 of us are really working on. So it's our animal and agricultural leadership program that we're doing with teens across the state. We have about 30 teens that are involved in that. We were at capacity this year, but right. So the first time we went to Cornell, and this is actually a picture of the group here, and we did the team building at the leadership center. And then last week or 2 weeks, I can't remember, a week and a half ago, we went to Cobleskill. And we really spent some time with them. So the 4 of us have kind of been planning it as we go through. And one thing that we're moving towards, and for our next two is we're kind of handing the reins over to the teens, right? Saying, all right, this is what we have to do as part of the program objectives. I said, but now there's 3 or 4 hours of opportunity for us. What would you like to do? Right? And who wants to lead that? What are the leadership opportunities? Here's some things we could do. Here's some things that we don't have to do, right? Tell us what you want to do. If you want us to lead it, if you want to lead it, right? So it is always this opportunity that you have the teen advisory boards, but it can also be part of a program, an advisory board once you start the program. So I think you can do a combination of leadership as the adult versus teen, and then kind of once you're going is let the kids take their reins. It may take it in a very different direction than you're planning within guidelines. However, the teens are going to get out of it just as much and are going to be more engaged in it than listening to us right about it. So that's something that we're heading with our AAL program over the next 6 months, and we're excited to see where it happens, right? There's always the nervousness from adults of like, no, we have to go X, Y, Z, right? But we have to get over that X, Y, Z and the adultitis out of it and move forward. So that's something to think about even at the county levels, right? You're doing your county fair stuff or you're planning up your fun stuff, start them, but let them go and see where they head and just keep, give them parameters.
Moving on to the youth adult partnership. I don't know why I put that twice, but there it is. So move from the leader driven to the collaborative engagement. Give teens a seat in the decision-making table. And then this is kind of, and we had talked about this, the Debbie, Jessica, Brian, and I, about 90-10 leadership. Teens make 90% of the decisions, adults guide 10, and how like my brain just exploded because I'm like, oh, how do we like, yes, okay, in research it is showing that this is how teen engagement is successful if we can let them make 90% of the decisions, but how do we gauge that? How do we measure that? And I think we kind of got to get over getting caught up on that number and just trying to meet as much leadership and as much decision making as we can allow for them to do. And we'll talk in the next slide a little bit about how which I'm moving on to now, the low lifts, high impact teen engagement, and I'm kind of skipping over, but the tangible tip that I really liked here is do a teen takeover where one meeting or one event is 100% teen led. And that's an easy way to just say, okay, we're going to just try this out. You guys figure this out. You're leading the meeting. You'd have to give them a little prep before this, but the next meeting or next month, we're going to have a meeting where it's all teen led. So you have to find the speaker, let me know where I can help, and then they go from there. So that's just kind of a way to start getting towards that number of giving those youth 90% of that power, or not power, but yeah, 90% of the decision-making process, and how that can be connected to this tip. So low lift, high impact teen engagement ideas, social nights. They're fun. They can be informal events, bowling, something like that. I also think social nights can be sort of like project social nights where maybe they're at a farm cleaning out something or building something where there's no goal, but they kind of have a task at hand. Teen-led projects let teens develop and execute service initiatives. We talked about this already, but just sending that home that youth are interested in helping and these teens want to feel like they've made an impact on a community or people around them. And that is a key to keeping them engaged. The micro leadership and silent leader roles. These are the teens, we all probably see it working with teens. There is going to be a handful of youth who are right in the front, raising their hands, wanting to maybe even be a little more than a leader than needed into that bossy category. And then we have these youth in the back who may be quieter, and it does not mean that they don't want a leadership role. It does not mean that they don't want to have some identity with the group. So this is where that 10% of our job really needs to be identifying those youth and giving those micro leadership roles. And I see this in the youth who or I have had success in youth where maybe they're very good at like photography or art, and they can lead like a project or put together something. And so identifying, knowing those youth and their abilities, and then try kind of putting a little pressure on them to push them to the next step of that leadership role, because when they succeed on that little step, they're going to be more likely to engage moving forward. And then career and college prep. We have a lot of youth, a lot of teenagers that all they think about is going to college. So how we can incorporate that into preparing them for that next step, it's going to engage them. And I do think sometimes we veer away from that because we're like, okay, we want them to be engaged. We want to make sure we have animals there. And really, sometimes they're just looking to work really hard and get your feedback on an essay or something like that. So creating programs teens want to attend. How to design a winning program. Ask for input, make it social, infuse a purpose, and keep it moving. If you start planning programs, or maybe you have a program and you can kind of use this as a tool or a model moving forward as far as, okay, where did I ask for input for this program? Maybe if I asked for more input, it could improve it. Where did I make it social? Where did I infuse purpose for these youth? How did I keep it moving? So this could be a way to look back on programs that you've had that may or may not have been successful, but how you could improve them. Or when you're developing a program, just asking these to yourself, where have I done this? And you're going, if you can incorporate all of these things and you don't have a successful teen engagement program, let me know. Because I really think that if you hit all of these buttons, you're going to set yourself and your program and your teens up for success. So what I'd like to do is we can go into a breakout room for a few minutes. We'll do it again too, Jess. So I don't know if that matters to you. We'll do 2 breakout rooms.
Okay.
2 different times, not 2 breakout rooms. And I want each group to discuss a program that you may have done or you are planning, and a tweak that you could do to make to the program to engage teens better using kind of this model.
I'm almost done, Brie.
No, you're good. I'm going to put it in the chat too, because I think once you leave, you won't be able to see this.
Okay, I'm gonna open the rooms now. Brie, oh God. And Brian, I think we're going to put ourselves in rooms. Hold on, I'm like choking. I could only assign Debbie to a room, room 2, so we'll have to put ourselves in rooms 1, 3, or 4 because we were host. It wouldn't let me put them in there. Ooh, I don't know what that was. Okay. And I'm going to put this in the, there, I'll go.
That tank, is that made to work on that tank? It actually sticks. I've been here before. I was telling her I was actually training a guy here about a year ago. We showed up here. And I don't remember if we had that tank or the other one. Got that one.
Welcome back, everyone. I think we're still waiting on Brian's group.
Is there any breakout rooms we have to boot out?
I think we're all back, right? We had 4 of them.
Yep. And it doesn't
Well,
look like it's waiting
what
any.
did you folks talk about? What is at least, I'd like at least one person from each group to discuss one tweak that you discussed in your group to an existing program or a program you're planning to better engage youth.
Maybe start with group 1 and just go through to group 4.
I like that idea, Deborah.
Group 1.
Sure. Yeah, we talked about giving choice, like even picking, letting the kids like choose. Maybe if you have like a teen ambassador, a teen council, or something like that, letting them choose from a couple options of what like the trips might look like if they want to go on a field trip. If it's to the roller skating rink, if it's to a different kind of farm, something like that. And also keeping it interactive as possible, especially when you know it's going to be dry.
Anyone else from group 1? We're gonna move on to group 2.
One big thing we talked about in our group was kind of getting it so the parents will kind of drop their kids off and leave, kind of a thing, to kind of get the teens just away from their parents because they can be different when they're not around their parents.
That's a very good one. And it allows for them to create their own identity, which really, that is one of the important aspects.
And Brianna, I was just going to add, so Kaylee, that's a great point. So with our AAL program, I will tell you, we have parents hounding. Like the first one, they're like, wait a minute, we're not staying with our kids. But there was nothing in our plan that they were staying with their kids. And for parents to let go of their kids to us for 24 hours was like, wow. And it kind of was a flooring to us. But I will tell you, the kids appreciated it. The parents, not so much.
But I think those parents come around because the experience that those kids are having, the first time or two, it might be a little rough for a parent to walk away or be told they need to leave. But the experience and how that kid comes back from that will be very different. And I think, and based on our firm hold of no, parents, they're not part of this, let go. Those kids come back from the program and they're excited, they're engaged, they're talking about what they did, the friends they made, what they learned, and those things. And I think then that helps the parents somewhat loosen the reins on that a little bit.
Group 3.
I guess I'll share a little bit. So in our group, we talked about a couple different things. At least one of the things that I had I guess reflected on, that I had said that within my 6 years of being with Extension, I noticed from our animal council meetings and our PAC meetings, we used to have like a lot of teen engagement. You know, our animal council meetings, at least half of them were teens, and then we had some representatives at our PACs. And then over the years, progressively, I've noticed that we no longer have that teen presence. And here we've been doing like programs, you know, going off of what the parents want. Um, and now just kind of sitting back and reflecting and being like, okay, well, maybe we need to make some changes, and you know, maybe that will help get our teens more interested, I guess, rather than just, you know, putting on programs that the parents want them to have, you know. Yeah, that just
Excellent. No, great point. And then group 4.
I think some of our group 4 had to pop off for some meetings, but I can kind of chime in to a little bit of what the conversation was. By the time I popped in, there was already some discussion, but from what I was hearing, kind of how to adapt in a sense to some scheduling difficulties to include and engage some more teens, which everyone's talked about being a pretty difficult task, but I find the teens that they're working with, when they're able to show up and they're committed, they're engaged and they're fully there, but kind of, I'm gonna say, not tailoring it to around their schedules, but trying to fit in best with what works with them and working directly with them was the part that I was able to catch for group 4.
Thank you.
Brianna, I was just gonna go back to, so Teresa, are you on still? Teresa, Adele? So she actually shared so she is working on a youth program right now for teens. Is she gonna pop on?
I've
Do you want to
tried.
share on working with your youth program and what you're discovered while you're deciding on youth and how that's affected your program?
You mean about giving them something to do?
Well, discovering you don't have the teens you thought you had also.
Oh no, I went through my foliage online and I was rudely awakening that I don't have, 14 and above, the teens that I thought that I had, and that, most of my program, at least 85% of it is clover buds and up to age 12. So is that what
Yeah,
you
and
wanted, Brian?
yeah, no, I think that was important because I don't think we reflect on that either, right? Like we think we're servicing them, but then when we actually dig deep into it, if you dig deep into your county, are you really doing that? So I think it's something to reflect on, and I think that really came out of our group 3 is reflecting on how we're using teens and how they're involved.
This was actually something that I overlooked originally when I was first putting this presentation together, and we got together as a team, and somebody else brought up, what about recognition? And then I kind of went back into the literature, and it was pretty clear that that is a very important part of engaging these teens. So teens are craving validation and a sense of accomplishment. And when Brian kind of talks about his conversation we've had with teens directly to get input for this program, we're going to see that. And it's very interesting. I think oftentimes we think of recognition as a formal event or program, which is important and is valuable. But sometimes just saying like, hey, good job, I'm really proud of you in uh, not singling a student out, and maybe not even saying that in front of a big group, but that type of recognition goes almost further for youth than, or just as far as, a formal recognition. And also, Brian kind of shared an experience. You don't mind if I share that about your son? His son received an award, and he just kind of got it like somebody just gave it to his sister to give to him, and it was like a pretty big award that he had won through a program or some opportunity, and that was the only recognition he got. He didn't get even a letter or an acknowledgement from the educator, or an award ceremony where it was brought up. So being cognizant of that when youth really do go above and beyond to kind of match that accomplishment with the recognition that we give. It reinforces effort, leadership, and skill development. And whoop. I actually meant to take the career and college prep out. But some examples: personalized acknowledgement, award and certificates, public shout outs, teen spotlights, and non-traditional rewards, special opportunities, extra leadership roles, trips, and things like that. I think those non-traditional awards, this is why we have to get to know our teens a little bit to see what is going to motivate them. And sometimes an extra, a trip may not be the award or the recognition a particular youth may want, but a post on some sort of social media or things like that could really go a long way.
I think to go with this too, Bree, kind of remembering or reminding ourselves too as we're giving that recognition. Sometimes it's easier to see, like, here we have Charlotte in the picture, who was the top place speaker in our horse communications at nationals. To while we want to highly like recognize her achievements or their achievements in these situations, but also like, and sometimes it's easier at the county and regional levels. We know those teens or those youth that struggle with like public speaking anxieties and things like that. So if you see those kids that you know has been struggling to even do the I'm gonna say like the bare minimum, like I have to give this presentation in order to maybe participate in fairs. So like finding them maybe after the event and being like, hey, good job. Like I know you've been super worked up and nervous about this, but you showed up, you did it, and you were great. Like to kind of help, kind of like a different type of recognition in a way, like letting them know that you see them and you know that they've been worried about it or something like that. Kind of helps them realize that they showed up and they did it, and that was a big thing if they've been having some sort of anxiety or fear about something like that. That's helpful as well.
And I think that also goes back to that 4-H motto, to make the best better. It's really important that we're identifying that what this student is bringing forward is their best. And so my best may be different than Jess's best, or obviously Charlotte's best might be different from that student who has a lot of anxiety, who's not even interested in competing at the national level, but their best, making their best better, is just standing in front of a few people and giving a presentation. So being able to recognize those accomplishments, thank you, Jess, that was an excellent example, and identifying that our youth are bringing their best forward, whether their best is a little different. And that's why I love that motto and the Danish system.
I think Brianna's just meeting them where they're at, right? Like meeting them where they're at, because every kids are at different levels, and one level may be exactly where that kid needs to be or that youth needs to be, and that's a big struggle for them to get to that level. And then, but for this other young lady that went to nationals, she's at a very different level, and that's okay. You've got to meet them where they're at and recognize that as an educator.
So overcoming a couple common challenges. Teens are too busy. Offer flexible hybrid options and short-term commitments. This is also really valuable for getting that first novel experience to teens that may be on the fence of participating. Obviously, we're always going to be competing with schedules, but if they are interested in something and you make that spark and you get them in that novel experience with that social component, they're gonna come back. It's kind of, if you can hit that bullseye, then you're on the right track. They don't show up, make them feel needed. And this is where obviously personal invitations are incredible because they feel seen when you're addressing them specifically. But also when we're talking about the Cloverbud opportunity that I forgot who was talking about it.
I think it was Cary in Clinton County.
Carrie was, um, if they don't show up, they are putting more pressure on their peers and they're not having that opportunity to give back. So somehow incorporating a way that they are needed at that event or for that opportunity for it to go on, it's going to get them to show up. And then they lose interest. And this is keeping the programs fresh, rotate leadership, and celebrate achievements. I know it's hard sometimes to keep programs fresh. And that's where getting that voice of those youth of what they want, they can freshen it right up for us. So some of these tools really help the other as well. I see a raised hand. Jeanette?
Okay, so in the overcoming common challenges, with the first one, our teens are too busy. We kind of need to take a look at ourselves and the parents because we all spread ourselves too thin. And I know a lot of the parents spread themselves thin. So we need to set an example of what is important and how to make priorities of things, if that makes sense. Because we're in a place where everybody's trying to do everything all at once. And we can't. And they don't see the support systems that the parents have or that we have as educators for us to be at all these different places. Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. And that's the other element. We can talk about all of the things we need to do, but then we're already busy educators. How are we supposed to incorporate more? So I hope that I hope we can take from this, like, okay, we can't incorporate all of it, but maybe if we hit some of these bullet points just a little bit, we can improve that engagement. And then obviously the conversation about volunteers and stuff is for a different day. But
So Jeanette, I would just add to that a little bit. So I've got three teenagers, almost three, in the house. And right, I think that's that's valid, right? Like we are balancing so much, the sports, this, FFA, 4-H, right? Our church programs, all that type of stuff. And one of the things that I've discovered just sitting back and reflecting on my own kids and my own family is if my kids are involved in the planning or in the process, they're committed to that versus something else, right? And I think that's also engaging with them to do that because the kids will choose. I'll be like, all right, you got basketball or you have this. And most of the time, if they're gonna pick what's best, right? So amazingly, you know, my daughter missed one of her basketball games because she went to an FFA thing. Why? Because she was committed. She's the club president and she's committed to that. And we talked to her through it. So I think it's having them engaged and what they're engaged in to choose. Because like you said, sports, you're not allowed to miss. But however, as a parent, we need to sit back and reflect and as an educator and say, what is the most important and where are they engaged?
I've also found, especially for a lot of our teen events, is making sure that our events are getting advertised far enough out because there are so many busy schedules that, like, I couldn't expect someone to come to me and say, I need you to do this in 2 weeks and me be able to fit into my work schedule. So I shouldn't have to expect families to be able to squeeze stuff in too. So I found I've had a lot more success with these teen events by making sure I'm maybe advertising them 6 to 8 weeks out so they can plan.
And one other part that I might add, it's coming at it from a little different angle, but you know, I see like with the AAL program that we have, there's 4 of us that we're working together. All 4 of us are running this program and and we all, you know, we have a piece of it. So it's kind of, you know, and from a balance standpoint, we're there, we all have a piece of it. It makes it a little easier. So then, you know, maybe as an educator, and I know this is a kind of a big leap, but instead of you trying to do everything yourself, maybe you reach out to the next 2 counties that surround you and you make it more of a regional type partnership where all 3 of you are working on the same project. And from your angle, that gives you it's less daunting for you, and maybe that can help with the balance of I have all this to do, but if I only have this piece of it, And then you're bringing more kids together and making those connections. And, you know, it might be a way of helping with that.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point, Debbie. And I think, and I didn't share this, and none of them are on here, but I've been working with the down where I live, down by Binghamton. A few counties are going to try to do our AAL program, but at the middle school level, right? And the seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th graders, and do it as a regional thing down here to engage teens, but very much follow like our AAL program. But they're looking to do it with 4 counties or 3 counties so that it's not all on one person and to still engage the kids, right? So if they can't come, they can come to every 1 out of every 3 type of thing. So looking at that stuff as a regional, I think is really key also, and that's valid.
Excellent. So what our youth have to say, I'm going to swap over to Brian. Let me know when you want to flip the slide. I don't know if you want to talk
So
about
I
it.
think, yep. So one of the things that we did kind of prepping for this is we have our animal and agricultural leadership program, and we had them actually 2 weeks ago, and we spent some time with them in Cobleskill. So we get there on Friday night, we take them, we did a farm tour, and then we took them back to the hotel and had dinner with them, and then we did about a 3-hour program with them. We had about 3 or 4 different activities we were going to do with them, from helping with resume to personality tests, all that type of stuff. But we started with the option to talk about how do you as teens want to be engaged, right? How do you want to be engaged with adults, and how do you not want to be engaged with adults, right? And that was really kind of an opener of like don'ts and do's, right? Like, don't do this to us and do this to us, right? So we really had this conversation. So we were anticipating about a half an hour or 45-minute discussion before we moved on to the next thing. And I think we were at 2 hours, and we were like, okay, and the kids could have kept going, right? And it was 9 o'clock at night, and we were like, all right, we can either keep going with this, or we can do another activity, or we can give you guys free time. And obviously they chose free time, which is completely was fine with us, because I think there's just as much value in that as anything else. So the next couple slides we have is really exactly what the kids said. So don't take offense to it if you're a parent or an educator, but some of the stuff that they said is things to say they want to do. What our youth say to do, right? Is they want larger trips. We've talked about that. They want longer trips. And you'll see a lot of different joint things in here. Field trips, panel with adults in ag, right? So they want to listen to panels. They want to get that. They're very intrigued about state councils, like a state council or even a regional council. They want leadership. They want us to get them together with similar interests. So I don't think if you've got dairy kids, you can also do animal science kids, but they want kids that have similar interests to work with. They really like the summit idea, where you're bringing them together, you're kind of floating around, giving them different activities throughout, whether it's a day or 2 days. On that, more programs focused on teens. That was loud and clear. They said all our programs in 4-H are focused on the younger kids. There's nothing for us. This is what they're telling us. More state conferences. Show that you care, right? And I think there was a few things that we really talked about that, and it wasn't necessarily towards, and there wasn't necessarily towards educators, but also parents, teachers, everything, a general. They're like, show us you care and give us respect, right? We are close to being adults. Show us your respect. This one kind of hit home, I think, with all of us was, tell us how proud you are of us, right? Simple things of saying that was an amazing job, right? Like, tell us how proud. The kids were like, yeah, we don't hear it. We don't hear it as much as you think. And I was kind of sharing my own story. So if you're Facebook friends with me, I do share a lot of I am very much proud of my kids, and I share a lot on Facebook, right? And I will tell you, and it's pretty much my Facebook is my kids. And my daughter is like, Dad, they're both on, they're always on me like, Dad, you share too much on Facebook. But then one time she did something, she's like, Dad, why didn't you share that on Facebook? I was like, because you just yelled at me I did too much. And she's like, oh. But they seriously do like it, right? They want that stuff to be shared, right? So they want you to know that they're proud of them. More in depth and hands-on, freedom. They want freedom, right? Giving them that freedom. Involve us to be part of the organizing. So when you're organizing it, this is where we talked about on that. Make the environment a safe place, right? And I think we do a very good job with that in 4-H, but it's something to always kind of think about it. I think our kids are always in school, are doing the drills, that type of stuff, and I think they just are very cognizant of that. This was also, and I think this is as parents, educators, is it's okay to make mistakes, right? Give them room to make mistakes and learn from that and make that a teachable moment. Share more about 4-H in school, trips to farms, try to understand things we talk to you about. So I think that was listening. Just listen. A fun phone jail, keep it light but goofy. So this was because we did tell the kids they couldn't have phones while we were there. So they were kind of giving us a little grief on that. Push us, but not to our limits. Let us pick our own groups and partners. Have us do more leadership activities, play games. It's okay for cuss words. They said if it just kind of comes out, don't freak out. All right. Enjoy the team icebreakers, hands-on activities, creative freedom, more detail for beginners, explain large confusing terms, listen to us, right? Do things that we actually want to do. That was kind of an interesting thing. They said a lot of stuff that they are being forced to do is stuff they actually don't want to do. And they're like, that's why we don't do it, because we don't want to do it. More relevant content, relaxed environment, less lecture. Leave time for questions, ask questions of us, and keep us engaged. Give time to process, being open to hearing, use social media, and don't forget the middle schoolers. So if I think you think about this, there's a lot of joint thoughts in here, right? They're looking for the trips, they're looking for the overnights, they're looking for having a voice, they're looking for us to be proud of them and an opportunity to have a say in what their programs are, right? They want that hands-on learning as we go through. Anybody want to add to some of the discussion that we had on the dues?
And I think you've hit on it, Brian, and we've talked a little bit about it. They want, you talk about those trips and those statewide programs, they want to, not just their county, they want to, they want to connect and make a bigger swath of others that have similar interests that they can connect with. And, in talking about the regional and state type of programs, they want you to get them to those or help them with those types of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody, Brianna? So I think that was really what they were telling us. We had a great conversation about this, and they're just saying is we need stuff at a higher level for them. You want to go to the next one unless somebody wants to add? So what not to do. And so some of this was we were getting educated as we were going because we didn't understand it either. Don't use their slang. They were actually teaching us some slang. I'm like, I don't even have a clue what this means, you guys. And it was not anything bad, but they're like, don't try to be cool like us, right? Like they're like, don't try to fit in with us. You don't fit in with us, right? They're like flat out. Don't push us to be something we aren't. Let them be what they want to be. You don't know what's best for us all the time. Valid, right? Like we think we know what's best for them all the time. And we did talk to them about this 90-10, right? Like, yeah, 90% of the time, but there is sometimes that 10% where we have to say, no, this is not the case. This has to be done, right? And they understood that. They understood that. But they said it's okay for sometimes to let them know. Phone rules. So this came out after we told them that their room check was at 10 o'clock and all that stuff. So parents parent us. They don't want another set of parents. You're not their parent. Don't be their parent. Be their role model. Adult engaging teens need to understand we are a different generation. Very much a different generation. If you spend time with teens, you will understand that, especially if you do the overnights with them. It is a very different generation. Don't talk to us like kids, basically treating them with respect. Don't push stuff down our throats. Treat us like disobedient children when we haven't done anything wrong. So basically giving them the benefit of the doubt until they prove you otherwise. Compare us to other kids, assign seats, treat us like a little kid. Oh, Brianna, you just went right on
Sorry.
by me.
Woo!
Just don't stand there and lecture, right? They want that hands-on component. Don't keep changing things, get organized. That drives them nuts, is when they go to a program and it's not ready, right? They want an organized, ready to go. Don't make us write essays when they don't listen to, and I actually go into the essays and I think we talk about that in our member reports, or if our project record books, right? Why can't we do YouTubes? Why can't we do a social media? Why can't we do a TikTok that talks about our same stuff, right? It's a different generation. We don't want to write essays. We want to create something that's different. Nag on us about everything, think we're dumb, team exercises, force us to do engaging activities, right? So some of this, you'll see it from different kids on that. So I think the big thing with do not treat them like kids. They want to be treated with respect and they want to be engaged, right? And we had great conversation with this. And this is an activity that's very simple to do with your own teens in your own county, right? Just give them the platform, give them a safe space, and let them run, right? We had the kids do the do's and the don'ts on 2 different sticky notes, and we put it up on the wall and just went through it and gave the kids the chance to talk and just listen and learn from them. So that was something we kind of wanted to share with you guys that we did with them, and it's a great activity to go back to your county and just listen. They were heard, they knew they were heard, and they appreciated it.
And I think something that I kind of got from this, and I don't talk about it much in this presentation, but is the authenticity, where if you explain like, hey, and you're authentic about who you are as the chaperone, as the adult, like, it's my job to make sure you stay safe, so I am going to do bedroom checks. Okay. They can understand that. They may be annoyed, they may think, okay, we don't need a bedtime. Or if you say, hey, we've been on our phones a lot today, I didn't mind it, but for this activity, I really want everybody to put their phones on this table and then we'll get them after. If you explain why instead of just doing this because I said so, it goes a lot further with the teens, and that's really also putting that really comes back to giving them the control, giving them the identity, and then the ability to choose. Okay, we let you choose 90% of the time, but this 10% of the time, now I need you to do this. And they're more likely to engage in that 10% that you need them to for something that they may not enjoy, because you've given them that authority of their own for the other times in the program. Does this speak to anybody, or does anybody read something that they identify with in their programming, or something that they've seen with their youth?
Yes, I identify a lot with a lot of what's been said because I Brianna found this out, but I am a younger educator from my county, and they I when I first met my youth, I gave them a brief introduction of me, said this is what to expect, this is what I will do. Don't I want the only thing I want is for you to stay safe. You can come to me with anything you need. And I just let them do that, and they've responded really well to that, and that's following a lot of what they've said. Like and even from me to their generation, I don't understand half the slang they use. I don't understand it. I'm not going to use it. So I think this is a great idea and is wonderful that you guys did that with them.
All right, we're going to do another breakout room. There's a 4-H club is struggling to retain their team members. Participation drops after 8th grade. Club leaders feel frustrated and don't know how to bring them back. For your breakout task, I want you to identify possible reasons of drop off, brainstorm 2 to 3 challenges that could improve teen engagement, and then we'll report back to the group. I know this is kind of similar to what we did before, but I'd like you to maybe think of this more theoretically, and if you'd like to create more of a detailed example than the scenario, just for your purposes of creating this scenario, that's fine. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Bree, will you be able to copy and paste that into the chat and then I can put it into a blast in the breakout sessions for everybody?
Yep.
I was gonna type it, but I don't think I was gonna have it all ready in time.
Oh, of course I did it in like little. Yeah, I'll get that for you.
Okay, and how long do you want everyone to have?
Let's do 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna open them up if everyone's good. Brian, are you good to go back to room 3? I'm gonna take that as a yes. He's not there, but I'll put him in room 3. All right, they are opened. Brian, I'm gonna put you, oh, you got it. You're on top of it. Nope, I'm gonna put you in group 3, Brian, if I can get you in there. Never mind, you're gone.
I'm typing it in right now.
All groups should be closed out, Bree, so they should be coming back.
Oh, dear Lord.
They're trying to throw me under the bus in my group.
I don't blame them. I would too.
All right. For the sake of time, we just have a couple more things we want to go over. So I will need people to speak up quickly about their case breakout study conversations. We'll start with actually, we're going to start with group 4 this time. Group 4, can someone or multiple people chime in and talk about the possible reasons of drop off that they discussed, and then 2 or 3 changes that could improve teen engagement?
I don't mind. I know Andrew just went off from you too, but so we talked a little bit about like we talked about in the beginning, like jobs and extracurriculars. We talked a bunch about how, you know, there's multiple kids in a family, so it's not just like one kid schedule you got to worry about, it's all the kids. I have a weird family. I have 2 teenagers and a toddler in my house, so you know, you never know what the day is going to bring. But a few of the ideas that I saw on one of the slides before, it said youth bring a friend for events, and I felt like that could be something, you know, that could be one of the solutions of getting more teen engagement, because it brings teens from maybe a different part of their world than, you know, their 4-H friends, because you know, they tend to have, you know, their summer 4-H friends and then their school friends or then their sports friends. And so tying those in together is a good idea. We also talked about just keep trying and making sure that they know that we're available to them and we can help them in different areas of, you know, what they need in their life. Or Christina talked about like being able to write letters of recommendation for college or for jobs, and you can get all that type of stuff through 4-H. That's it.
Thanks, Melissa. Anything else from group 4? We'll move right on to group 3.
So is anybody from my group volunteered? I really tried hard and they threw me under the bus and said I had to do it. And I was like, that was not allowed.
I can.
So I think, go ahead, Nate.
So in our group, we did kind of talk a little bit more about scheduling conflicts with extracurriculars and working through different schedules that we have to deal with, because an example I gave was I was a competitive swimmer. I had meets 2 to 3 times a week in high school, and they were all at night after normal practice time. So then trying to schedule anything during the week was almost impossible. So we talked about changing it up with scheduling with the club leader, having them maybe make a sacrifice. Brian gave an example where he had to make a sacrifice as a club leader and move meetings to Sundays instead of keeping them like during the week to avoid conflicts with other extracurriculars and those sorts of things. And that was one of our big topics. Also, we talked about trying to work with other organizations to get more opportunities to give youth more reason to come back to programs.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you, Nathaniel. All right, moving on, group 2.
Is there anyone in group 2 that would like to speak on our behalf instead of me?
I can.
Great.
So we kind of talked about something similar. We kind of said one of the things we said was it could be after 8th grade, you're getting into those JV and varsity sports. So kids are starting to get more serious about those sports and stuff. But we also talked about how they could be in a smaller club where there's not a lot of older kids. So they could just get that feeling like we talked about earlier that they already know everything. So we had a lot of different discussions on what we could do to improve, like having the teens lead different activities for the youth in the first half of the club meeting, and then the second half of the club meeting maybe dive into something a little bit deeper that focuses more on those teens. We talked about having just one big kind of starting over and having a big social night for all the teens and just having them come and just be teens and get to know each other and everything like that. And then another idea we had was for the educator to meet with the teens and kind of figure out what they want, what their passions are, and things like that, and really focus and make programs for the teens that they want to do. I don't think I'm missing anything, but yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Kaylee. And we'll move right on to group 1.
I can quickly jump in. So reasons pretty much all the same: social, busy, independence, all of that. We brought up, doing events that are specifically for their age group, so they're not, they will feel like an adult. They'll know it's geared towards them. But then if we have an event that's open to multiple ages, not just expecting them to kind of come in and be a leader, but if they want to just learn, give them that chance to just learn. But then on the flip side, using them as leaders at times, but just knowing that they have an expectation of, am I coming to learn or am I coming to be a leader, so that they can be prepared for it. And then a big thing with ours was kind of showing some empathy in their scheduling. So there's a lot of groups that, if you miss an event or 2 events, you're kicked out of the group. So showing them some empathy and that it is okay to miss some events. And sometimes that takes some of the stress off of parents and the teens of having to fit this stuff in. And then trying to focus on, rather than finding a time frame that they don't have anything else going on, which seems almost impossible for some of these teens, but focusing on creating events that are going to really spark them to want to prioritize this 4-H event over something else. Kind of like Brian was saying, there are times that they're just going to have to choose. And so what can we do that will just maybe keep things interesting and keep things exciting for them to choose?
Thanks, Carmen. All right. So, Brian, we're going to move right into this. Brian is going to put a link in the chat, and then we're going to follow that link, and similar to what we did earlier in the sticky note thing way, put a new strategy that you learned, or maybe you already knew, but you've thought about today. One new strategy you will implement for engaging teens, and then how you'll measure its success.
So if you go over to the left, if you're not familiar with the Canva, you can grab an element and just grab sticky note and just put it in there and type right into it. And just don't watch the screen. Brandon, do you want to switch screens?
Yeah, I'm trying. Can you see it?
Yep. So we're seeing being a friend, bring a friend to social events, measure by how many attend, bring a friend to a teen, measure attendance. Allow them to have a voice. Love that. Creating a group for the teens to have a voice in the ag. Yeah. Youth voice in programming. Find out what they want to do. Absolutely. Seeing some really good stuff up here, right? Like start programs with the teens with a trip, right? And it doesn't necessarily, it could be just going out to a farm, right? Going out to some farms on that, right? Dive deeper into a certain topic, Kaylee, great, right? Simple things with this, sticky notes are a great thing to do with kids, right? They like to use them, they like to put them everywhere. Just find a wall that they stick to. Have teens lead younger youth. social events that aren't centered around education. So important. Kids do not want to be drilled. Teens plan and lead. So we'll give you another minute to finish what you're doing and then fantastic. So these are all great. And I would encourage you guys, like, and I think we talked about it a little bit, but take the pressure off yourself. There's no reason, some of you don't have a huge amount of teens, but maybe you need to do it as a regional or 2 or 3 counties. You have an educator that's a county next to you that you're friends with. Partner up with them, right? See what's out there that you can do together, right? So there's so many opportunities, and I think that's something that's very different than those of us that have been in the system for a long time than 25 years ago. We didn't do that a lot now, but I think it's so important to do it now because there's less educators and there's more opportunities. Fantastic. So thank you guys for doing that. So bring a friend, ask, expanding their knowledge, lead a trip, bring a friend, social hours. Absolutely. Good. Thank you guys. On that back, I think Brianna is pulling up her slide. Just bear with us. We're almost done.
No, too far. All right. And this is a quote. Debbie, you sent this quote in and we loved it. Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn by Benjamin Franklin. So just leaving you with that final note. And this is a time for you to tell us your experiences and any questions or clarity, or if you want to look back at something. Now is the time.
This is Christina. I just, one thing we didn't touch on at all, which I actually touched on with other educators, is don't forget the homeschooling families out there. I think we're finding that a lot of times those families are the ones that do kind of engage through those teen years. So, we've got a very active homeschool club here in Orleans right now, and they're super helpful. They're a great resource when I want to do different things. But that's also too, like to reach out to them and let them know you're here, because they can be a long-term family that will stick right through to the end for you. So yeah.
Absolutely. Any other comments, questions?
Then these are the sources. I think, Brian, are we putting all of the presentations in one place, or are
Yeah.
we? Okay.
I think we'll put the recording on, and then anybody that signed up for this will send out the PowerPoint.
And then you can access those sources as well. That is all we have for you today, folks. Anything else that any animal science team wanted to touch on? Looks like we got people hopping off, so.
Thank you all for coming and sharing your experiences also.
Thank you.
Definitely don't be afraid to reach out to us. I know Carmen actually sent me a message about a program that she heard, and she's, so we're here, run it, bounce stuff off of us, bounce ideas off of us. We're happy to answer, help, give advice, send you in a different direction if it's not us, right? You don't have the connections in the state, maybe we do, to send it to you, right? And build that relationship for you.
Perfect. I have a meeting right at